Has Bitcoin topped? The likely answer is yes it has, and we have missed the top again. Or is there a second part to this crypto bull market that no one is seeing amongst this bloodbath? And could this be the bubble of all bubbles before the recession? If you want to know, watch on. My name's the Suppoman, your superhero of 100 to 1000x cryptos. I am the only one on crypto YouTube that has found multiple 1000x plus cryptos. So I have been in this market for 8 years, and if you want to be in on the alpha before it goes on my main channel, then make sure that you subscribe to Suppoman Live. And also smash a like on this video. Now, let me know where in the world you are from, and let me know how you are feeling right now about the crypto market. Because if we have a look, it is absolute pandemonium no matter which way you look at this market. It is being absolutely murdered to a gigantic scale. We are seeing heavy losses on top of heavy losses already. You know, we have basically been in a 2-month bear market. In fact, we are currently in our 4th worst November out of 15 Novembers, considering we are in Q4 of the post-halving year, arguably the most bullish time in all of crypto. It has been ever since crypto was invented. And yet, for the first time, we are bucking that trend. And we can see that in the last 24 hours, there has been $1.1 billion liquidated in longs. The market has been absolutely hit by a truck. It's been savaged by a bear, literally. And right now, people are just continuing to sell. We are seeing unbelievable crashes in some of the most hyped coins. And they are being brought out. I have never seen Aptos below $3. And Optimism is 33 cents. Render $1.88. Most of these coins are at their absolute lowest that I have ever seen, considering we're in Q4. Now, this has been brewing for a while. Crypto Twitter has gotten incredibly bearish. I sold everything I had. This is from Ansem, who's got nearly 1 million followers. Sold everything I had. Every coin I owned is gone. I'm completely out of the market. I can't take it anymore. Aggressive dumping, manipulation, everything is too intense. Crypto is over. And this is on October the 30th. That was before even today's huge capitulation. Alex Becker, he has been all season, every week. And now he's like, either we die here, or this is the start of the most amazing run of our lives. You have to be willing to accept death. This is for pure masochistic psychopaths. So this is just giving you an indication that even he is not at all having conviction in his place right now. Philocone, a trader who I have been following for many years and is typically right when he's not shitposting, says and he said this on October the 10th. It's officially over. Today is the first day we have had massive signs to confirm the bear market has begun. 3 bull markets. This is going to be my 3rd bear market. Hopium won't get you far. And this has had 4.4 million views. And it's time to get in, lol. What are you talking about? Have fun. He was absolutely right. And we have just got sentiment absolutely through the floor right now. This shit crypto cycle showed me that TA doesn't work, indicators doesn't work, sentiment doesn't work, Trump is an imbecile, CZ is a criminal, crypto Twitter's a bunch of clowns, celebs are scammers, shitcoins are really shitcoins, Bitcoin is the only asset we need to hold. Now that's going to allow me to get on to the next bit of this conversation. But the funny part is that I actually called it on the day. Accidentally. On the 6th of October. Now, why that's relevant is because there was actually a tweet that came out after my video that was saying that this guy had predicted back in 2023 that the top of the Bitcoin cycle for 2025 would be October the 6th, 2025, because of all-time high to all-time low, all-time low to all-time high figures, right? So he basically did a calculation. And this prediction for October the 6th actually fell slap bang when I did this live stream on October the 6th. So let's just hear what I had to say. Just a late 15,000, okay? Then we had the halving, right? Now, what is the difference in price of Bitcoin after the 150 days of sideways action, okay? So we've got the 150 days right here, okay, of sideways action before the market starts lifting off. So the price of Bitcoin is 53,000. So from 15,000 to 53,000 is basically, and again, 3.2x. So what I was saying here was that the price after the sideways action from the halving, the Bitcoin price was 3.2x from the bottom, exactly the same as in 2021, right? So we had already mirrored that part of the bull market, okay? So 3.2x, so from 3,000 to 10,500 back in 2021. Here, from 15,000 to 53,000, again, 3.2x. Roughly the same. Virtually roughly the same. At the end of the sideways action, we had 3x'd from the bottom. Exactly the same as 2021. Now, where are we? In terms of from sideways action, where are we in terms of the 393 days from that sideways action? Well, actually, we are on it. We are on it. So what I was saying is that 393 days after the sideways action is where we hit the top in 2021, just like where we mirrored the price of Bitcoin after the halving in 2021, which is exactly the same. And I was saying in 2021, we had 393 days from sideways action to the top of the market. And then it hit exactly. It was exactly on this day, Bitcoin hit its top. And I said at the time that this should, if we are following the market from the previous, this should be the actual top. But at the time, I was like, well, however, there should still be a 60-day altcoin season, because whenever Bitcoin tops, there's always an altcoin season, and there was not that. Okay, so it seems as if I may have accidentally predicted or may have accidentally called the top of Bitcoin on October the 6th. Now let's have a look at the data, because this is what's most important. It's very easy to say, oh, this bear market, this bull market, you know, it's all shit, it's all terrible, you know, crypto is absolutely useless. But let's look at the actual data, okay? So we're going to look at the Fund Manager Survey. Now, the Fund Manager Survey is basically a Wall Street indicator and instrument, right? Now, this is a survey of the cash levels, right? Cash levels equals liquidity. If there is strong liquidity, then that typically means the market is going to go up. If there is a low liquidity, it means the market is going to go down because there is not the money to buy dips. There's not the money to speculate. Essentially, there's a lack of liquidity, right? Now, this has no context to you at this point, right? But what's important to know here is that the Bank of America have noted that cash levels at or below 3.7% has historically triggered a sell signal for equities or risk on assets, right? So let's just have a look at what that means, okay? So this is the percentage of cash levels, right? And as you can see here, 4%, and where we are right now is at 3.8%. And what you notice here is that the highest level was October 22. October 2022 was actually near where the bear market ended for cryptos, okay? So Bitcoin, literally a month later, was about to be $15,000. So where we are in terms of 3.8 is exactly where we were here at the end of 2021. Okay, so where we had the highest cash, or where there was the highest cash, April 20, was just after COVID, right? So just after COVID was where the bull market began. Bitcoin went from $3,000 to, at the end of 2021, $70,000. Okay, so what happened was liquidity was at its highest at the beginning of the bull market, end of the bear market, and it was at its lowest at the end of the bull market. And we can see that here as well. Okay, where we can see that at the beginning of the bull market, essentially where Bitcoin was about to be, at its lowest, was actually where there was the highest cash injection, and this led to Bitcoin going to its astronomical high from 15,000 all the way up to 125,000 to now near enough exactly where we were back in the end of 2021, which is where we saw the end of the bull market. Now, this 3.8%, as I said, in the context of this, if it goes to 3.7, so it's already down 0.1%. So it was 3.9% in September, 3.8% in October. If this goes down to another 0.1%, then that means that this is going to lead to a massive sell in the market, according to the typical history of the fund manager survey. All right, so this is giving you an indication that a lack of liquidity is what's going to lead to the death of risk-on assets, right? And you can already see, look where we are right now. This is just unbelievable stuff, to be honest. $100,000 Bitcoin absolutely plummeted through that support line, absolutely decimated it. And what's going to need to happen in the very, very short term is it is going to need to bounce above it and stay above it, right? But let's just carry on with the data. So what you've got is you have typically got risk on assets are all correlated. They are all basically interwoven, wound up with each other, right? So typically when Bitcoin, stocks, and altcoins, whenever one is doing well, and typically it's the stocks that are doing well, then the rest of them follow because they are all wound into a big asset basket, basically. So if you just think of stocks, Bitcoin, and altcoins, they are all interrelated. When one is going up, generally the others are going up. If one's going down, the others are going down. So they are all interwoven. They are all wrapped up. Essentially, they are just wound up into a big threaded bob. Okay. Now, according to the liquidity, right? According to the data I just showed you, liquidity is typically at its highest when the market is down, okay? And so this is what happens. That is typically where the explosion from bear to bull happens, right? So you've got this basket of interwoven assets basically all moving up in tandem when liquidity is high from that point. Then we get a point where liquidity basically dries up completely, and this happens when the market is up. Okay, so it happened, as I showed you, basically right here. Right here at the end of 2021, this is where liquidity dried up, and where it was at its strongest was when the market was at its lowest, right? And the same in October 2022. And where we are now mirrors exactly where we were in 2021. All right, so just to be brutally factual, this is the situation as it stands right now, where liquidity is down, market has been at its up as of the 6th of October, and this is why the market is at this point going down, because people can't buy this dip. There isn't enough money circulating. Think about liquidity like an order book. All right, so an order book is consisting on the health of the amount of people putting buy and sell orders, right? So when there's high liquidity, there's a high amount of buy orders, and so the price just incrementally goes up. And when it starts to go down, there's such a huge amount of buy orders that it keeps strength in the market. When there is low liquidity, it's a very thin order book. So think about it like your average, crap meme coin, right? That's got very low liquidity. If somebody basically sells 1% of that supply, it is going to tank and pretty much rug the project entirely. Right? And that is what is happening when there is low liquidity in the market. And because of this low liquidity, we are seeing some really heavy dumps. There is nothing to support it. The liquidity, the order book is insanely low. Right? So that is explaining what is happening right now. And, basically, there needs to be an intervention. the US is heading towards a liquidity crisis and the government shutdown is equivalent to an interest rate hike, right? What's going to happen next is absolutely crucial to the market, okay? And this is where I start to believe that there is a second part to this bull market, okay? So I don't think, this is personally speaking, I don't think this is the end of the bull market. Why? Because of this, okay? Now, this may not be the absolute most bullish indicator, but to me, this is what led to liquidity being pumped into the market, okay? So if we have a look back to this data, basically, look where it was literally a month just before. It was hardly anywhere, and then very, very quickly, when stimulus came into the market, there was a gorge of liquidity, all right? And that is why I believe, actually, this is not the end, that this isn't the liquidity crisis that's going to lead to the end of the bull market, but actually we're going to get a cash injection that's going to lead to a second part of a bull market. All right, this is why, okay? Because we have got stimulus, and this cannot be ignored, okay? Now, another thing which I actually looked at differently, okay? So, we had in September, the Fed lowers US interest rate by 0.25 points, 25 basis points, basically. Now, this was very bullish. This is what led to the top, basically, in Bitcoin. This is what has led to, basically, a very healthy altcoin market up until the 6th of October, before we had massive liquidations, right? So this could actually be the fake, not the fake news, but this could actually be the catalyst that was used to end the bull market, okay? So the reason I say that is because when I go back to this bullish article, back on Monday, December the 11th, 2017, when I was around, and this is where I saw my first ever market top, okay? So Bitcoin made its first ever appearance or debut on the futures market, the CBOE futures market, right? Now, everybody thought this was going to be mega bullish for Bitcoin, and this is why Bitcoin went from, at this point, $15,000 to $20,000, because people thought that when it makes its debut, that's going to be, you know, Bitcoin is launched as an institutional instrument. It is launched out to the greater public to be able to, you know, make bets on its future, you know, do longs and shorts on Bitcoin. But actually, what this led to is that on the 16th of December was the top of Bitcoin, right? On 20K on that was the top of Bitcoin in the 2017 market, right? So there needed to be some bullish news that caused a big spike in liquidity or a big spike in interest that could be used to basically rug them. Basically, use it. This is an exit liquidity news. Was this exit liquidity news? This is what we are going to be finding out over the course of, basically, I believe, the next month. All right, the next 2 months, probably. Right? So, we have got stimulus checks. It's going to be coming in 2026. We have got a plan in December for quantitative easing to come in and to end quantitative tightening. Now, funnily enough, quantitative tightening came in at the end of the bull market in 2021. Basically, March, April 2022 was when quantitative tightening happened, right? And that is what basically bled out the value of stocks and cryptos in that time, right? So now we're about to have the opposite. We're about to have quantitative easing, which is where the Fed actually pumps money into the market. They buy stocks, they buy treasuries, they buy equities, they buy all these things as at the same time, the interest rate keeps falling, okay? So that, in conjunction with this, leads me to believe that the liquidity crisis is short-lived, just like what has happened in the past here, okay? So we had high liquidity, very low liquidity, and then all of a sudden high liquidity, and that is what led to a spike. And basically, that is what led to a 1.5-year spike for Bitcoin, right? And I believe that a very similar fate is about to happen with the crypto market, where it is right now. Well, not with the crypto market necessarily, but with the liquidity position. All right, so I believe the liquidity position is going to be solved, not necessarily immediately, but I think December, January, we should be seeing some great strides in the liquidity crisis, as it were. And I believe that liquidity is going to be back up. And I believe that is what's going to lead to a potential second half of a bull market. Okay, and yeah, and that's what I think. Right now, this leads to a wider discussion of what to buy. Okay, so back in 8 months ago, this was back in February 2025. We saw that these cryptocurrencies, a lot of the real big cryptocurrencies, had died an enormous death at this point. We were seeing AI agents down like 90%, gaming down 90%, layer 1's hugely down, DeFi hugely down, layer 2's hugely down, right? And the thing is they never actually came back up, right? So that means that, in my opinion anyway, utility coins are now dead, right? I don't think that they're worth buying. My personal opinion is that the only cryptos worth buying are the ones that have got communities, because community equals high order book equals liquidity, right? Because if you have got something that people are passionate enough about that they keep investing in, that they have conviction in, then this asset is strong. And something that I have noticed with a lot of the cryptocurrencies in this top 100 is a lot of them were based on hot air. Most people do not give a crap. They don't know a single thing about the team. They don't know what the team is doing. They never keep in contact with any of the Twitters of any of these big coins. They are just pushed in the grapevine of crypto YouTube and crypto Twitter. All these big coins that, I don't even know why. I think that influencers are incentivized to talk about these crap coins, right? But a lot of them are absolutely pure junk. No one keeps abreast of any of this stuff, right? And yet we have got something like Pengo, which is down 9%, whilst we are seeing other cryptocurrencies absolutely plummeting through the floor. They're sinking like the Titanic, if not worse. And we've got assets like Pengo that are still strong, 4.2 million. Why? Because these are passionate movements. People don't see this as just an asset to sell. They don't just see this as a name in their portfolio. They see this as something they're passionate about. And I am exactly the same. I feel passionate about this. I don't give a shit about most things in my portfolio. Most of my aged investments, my layer 1s, my DeFis, my layer 2s, all the things that are in my portfolio bucket, I don't give a crap about, right? But I do give a crap about Petro Penguins. I do give a crap about Doge, right? Because both of these are very passionate movements with very strong communities, right? So as far as I'm concerned, these will stay alive. And the price action of Petro Penguins has been insane. Especially when you consider that right now, one of the worst performers is Pudgy Penguins, 33% down, 10% down in the last 24 hours, and Pengo is not even there. You know why? Because Pengu, as in Pudgy Penguins, this is one that people never cared about. It's not a movement, it's just a meme coin mascot. If we have a look back to my video here, most of these are shit meme coin mascots. Like, all of them are shit meme coin mascots. The one that was the least down here is SPX. Why? Because that is not your typical meme coin mascot that has zero significance, right? But Pengo, right, this is not your average meme coin mascot. This is not like Pengu. Most people that invested in Pengu were listening to big YouTubers, big Twitter accounts. They didn't give a stuff about Pengu. They just wanted to see it go up. And as soon as it stops making money for people, then they start selling. But with Petro Penguins, it's not just about making money. It's about a passionate plight, which is that they are looking to flip the oil industry. And something that I really love is how these TikTok videos that they have brought out are actually perfect for the value proposition. Let's just look at this latest one. Now that, to me, is fantastic. That is fantastic. Because it's absolutely on par with the subject matter, which is, you know, these oil spilled over penguins and basically the environment they live in. The sea also had oil on it. And so this penguin came out, cleaned it, and it was fun. It was just sweet video, right? So their messaging is very, very faithful to the movement, and therefore the movement stays top of mind. If you look at Pudgy Penguins' content, and yes, it's excellent, it's very shareable, but the people who are sharing it aren't necessarily investors. You know, the people that are sharing it are just people who just find it very, very shareable. They find it fun, they find it cute, sweet, blah, blah, blah. They share it with their partner, whatever, right? But they're not investors, right? They aren't investors. Most of the people that are followers of the Pudgy Penguin brand are not investors. They don't even know it's a crypto, right? Whereas this is all about flipping oil, so therefore it has to be kind of top of mind in the messaging, in the branding, and there is an emotive messaging put behind it. And that's why I believe that doesn't matter what, whether Bitcoin has topped and has topped for the end or not, I believe this one's going to do well either way, just purely because it's a passionate movement and it can exist without being, you know, basically classed as a risk-on asset. You don't look at Pengo, you don't look at Doge as an asset that necessarily falls as an altcoin. The rest of the altcoins, you know, Aptos, Render, Injective, all these big coins, right? That you don't look at them as anything more than an altcoin. They aren't movements. They don't matter to you. You don't give a stuff if they do well or not. Them doing well does nothing for the greater good of crypto. It really doesn't. This decentralization noise, a pile of bullshit, right? And everybody is seen through the crap, right? So the only way in which influencers do well and altcoins do well is if there is that general momentum of up, right? So like I said in my tweet, if I can find it, like I said, influencers' calls have been shockingly bad, showing they only get hits when it's alt season. They only can do well if they make a call when the momentum is there, the liquidity is there, everything is going up anyway, and it's almost like a fluke. They have been shockingly bad, right? And the reason why is because no one cares. There's only one other influencer who has been nearly spot on, and that is Murad, okay? So Murad has very logically found out that people don't give a shit about altcoins. They don't give. He's a Bitcoin maximalist. Don't really care that much about Bitcoin, but what they do care about is they care about movements. And to me, these can do well regardless of the bullish momentum, but these could do even better with bullish momentum, because look at SPX. SPX went from basically 10 mil all the way up to 2.3 bill, right? As a result of altcoin seasons, as a result of critical mass, right? So this is a crypto that did very, very well because it was a movement, and people are passionate about movements. And even if you look on X right now, people are still very passionate about SPX, even though today it has gone down very sizably. 60 cents is like this was just $2.30 just a few weeks ago, right? If you think about it, like in the wide scheme of things, this was actually very, very expensive lately, right? So movements people care about. Now, neither Doge nor Pengo have had alt seasons yet. Neither have had critical mass. You would think that Doge did, because that went to 87 million, but it never had critical mass, right? All it ever had was just me talking about it. Oh, and a few others. You had Joe, you had Crypto Queen Amy, you had Win All Day, you had Crypto Gains, you had a load of people talking about it, and that's why it got an instant, it had instant traction, because it was something that was different. It rivaled SPX. For the first time, there was something that actually rivaled it, and it wasn't absolutely kicking it into the dirt like any other kind of any kind of beta play. But Doge was actually the first ever decent play, and actually had a hysteria that the reason why my videos got traction is because even the SPX people were and are in Doge, right? So they understood the messaging and they wanted to be in on Doge as much as they did on SPX. So these did well outside of an altcoin season. They will do well and be stable, just like Pengo has proven, even when everything else is absolutely tumbling. So basically, as far as I see this, this is a kind of win-win scenario. No, not financial advice, blah, 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 blah. But basically, if this does well, if the crypto market does go back into an ascendancy, it does have a part 2, it does well. Even if it doesn't, this has the chance to do well because it's a very high quality brand in the making. And I've just shown you that. Look, their videos, they've only got 43 followers. And when you're on TikTok, right, the 43 followers are the people that you get your initial traction from, right? And despite them having only a small amount of followers, they're getting, in the thousands of views, right? So that just goes to show that even in this very early stage, this is going to build momentum over time, because when somebody watches a Petro Penguins video, then automatically, whether they follow or not, they will be served another Petro Penguins video. And so it will just keep on building and building like a snowball. Right, so I believe that Petro Penguins has a lot of brand value to build out regardless of the market circumstances. And that is why these are seen outside, why these are seen independent of altcoins. But meme coins are actually not too bad either. Like if we have a look today at, the cryptos that I look at, yes, there's only 4 in the green. And actually, you would expect, considering the massive fall from grace, that most of these would be like 40% losses. But they're not. And that just goes to show you that my asset selection has been on point. But having said that, I believe that really the real strong ones are Pengo and Doge. They're the strongest by a long, long way. And at this point, this is the lowest market cap. It's actually broken through the support. And it's actually the lowest market cap. There's 2 zeros now. It is under 1 cent. Now, I personally believe, as I've just presented the information, that I believe that a cash injection is going to be coming in. And again, another reason for the bearishness and the lack of cash in the ecosystem is because there's a government shutdown too. Right, so whilst all that's happening, there's a huge bottleneck of liquidity. Like there's a liquidity crisis and a big bottleneck that is basically disallowing for liquidity to pass back into the ecosystem, which is this government shutdown. Right, so I think that basically 3 factors: the stimulus checks, quantitative easing, also the continued reduction of the interest rate, in conjunction with the government reopening, is going to lead to money being pumped back into the market. And I also think it's going to be very, very short-lived. I don't think it's going to last forever. I do think a recession is coming, because there's always a recession after a big rate cut, and there has not been big enough a rate cut for that to lead to a recession just yet. But I do believe it's going to be coming. And I do believe it's going to be violent as well. And I believe that what we're seeing right now is going to be on or amongst these kind of levels of liquidations when it actually does happen. And it's probably going to happen on a day-to-day basis. But at this point, I remain optimistic until these play. These are the last things that can play out, really. And, the stimulus is what led to, if we think about it, it's what led to this, one of the biggest peaks. And anyway, so so liquidity after a big meltdown, which is what we're happening right now. People are equating what we got right now to what happened in COVID or C19, whatever. They are equating where we are right now to that, right? And I think it's just a perfect storm of negative circumstances. And I think that soon is about to follow a perfect storm of positive factors, and then we are going to have kind of a similar, not as high as this necessarily, but roughly here, another liquidity, a very high liquidity area, decent cash flow, decent order books for cryptos. That's what I foresee happening. And then once again, this bundle of interwoven risk on assets are going to thrive again. But we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see. But what I'd like to say is that movements fall outside of this, because movements are movements. You don't see these as altcoins. You see these as movements, basically. And I think that they are decoupled basically. All of these are coupled assets, right? And I think that Bitcoin, to an extent, is slightly decoupled from the altcoin market, to a certain extent. But I also think that just due to the sheer volume of altcoins being released, this is another reason why altcoins have lost their dominance against Bitcoin. Is because there's just too many. Most are short-lived, and therefore the total 3 never really gets a decent, stable footing. It can never truly rise. But something we haven't had is a violent alt season. All we had really is Trump getting in, and that was the alt season. So I think that what we've got ahead is not necessarily what we've had before, which is now, let's say worst case scenario, Bitcoin has topped. I don't ever see Bitcoin going below 70k. I'd be hard pressed to see Bitcoin going down much below 85k. Right? So I don't think that we're necessarily going to be having, the big bull, big bear, kind of crypto movements anymore. I think it's going to be more something like it goes up high. This is the latest one. It goes up high. It doesn't go down to here, which it would have done previously. It kind of just goes down to here, and it just keeps going up. And it's like the stock market, because essentially now that we've got institutional involvement in crypto, I think that this is to be seen as basically the stock market now. Well, Bitcoin is, right? So unless there is a recession, I just see it being kind of correction, recovery, correction, recovery, like you see with stocks. Altcoins might struggle. It used to be the case that if Bitcoin kind of went up, like that, kind of to the factor of 1, then alts would go up to the factor of like 3, basically. But that's not the case anymore. Now it's kind of like, it's kind of 1 to 1. If Bitcoin goes up, alts go up, kind of the same. There's been no real big alt seasons this whole year. This whole season, in fact. Ever since, kind of beginning of, well, I'd say the bull market started October 23. Where we are right now, November 25. What we had was October 2023 was insane. It died down. And then we had an amazing one, February 2024 to April 2024, and then kind of nothing. Then the end of 2024, big rise, and then nothing since. We've had nothing since. We've had 3 seasons. This. That's it. We've had nothing this year, the entirety of the year, and that has never happened in a bull market year. So while Bitcoin may have topped, we have never had a no altcoin season year. And that's another reason why I believe we've still got a cash injection to come, liquidity. And I think that basically 2026 is going to be where we have, it's not quarter 4 like I thought it would be. In quarter 4 2025, I think that has basically died now. Right? That has died. You would have to have basically about 3 weeks of insane pump action for quarter 4 2025 to be on the table. I think Ian Bellina said very early on in this bull market, I think he said it like last year or maybe 2023. He said He said this is going to be the longest bull market, and it's going to last till 2026. And I think that may actually be playing out. So I think 2026 is where we're going to see the top. And that's basically the situation as it stands right now. Now you're probably saying, you could be looking at me and saying, Superman, I think you're talking a load of hope here. I think you're just trying to keep your alts propped up. That's what you may be saying. But you kind of have to have an element of it could be this or that, right? Now, obviously, I've already presented to you why the top might be in for Bitcoin, right? I've already presented why. I even said it on the actual day that it might be the top. I even said that it might be the top on the day. But it just doesn't feel like a top, right? A top, I've been in crypto 8 years. I know what it feels like. You got all the exchanges at #1 on the app stores. You've got friends and family asking you, what should I buy? What should I buy? What's this SPX? What's this Doge? What's this? What's this I'm hearing about? We haven't had that. We have not had that at all, right? And that is even in consideration of the fact that Dow Jones, SPX, and Nasdaq, they've all been very recently, as of like last week, at all-time highs, right? So the risk on asset environment should, by all means, be allowing for, a strong altcoin season, and where people are asking you these things, where it feels like you're in a euphoria. Perhaps stocks have been in a euphoria, but at this point, crypto has not. So that says to me it's still to be played out. We may not have a rampant alt season like we had in 2017, where like literally everything went up. We haven't even had the 2021 version, which is where we had, gaming and metaverse and DeFi doing really, really well in 2021. We haven't even had that yet. All we had really was Asta doing well for a period, and maybe Hyperliquid. But what we have not had at this point is we have not had anything resembling an altcoin season. Like the last thing that we had was back in November 2024. When Trump, basically a year ago, when Trump got into power and the market went absolutely nuts. Bitcoin went crazy. That was the last time we've had anything resembling. We have not had anything this year at all, people. Does that not tell you something? Like, how is it possible to not have a bullish year at all? It's been the whole year. Since the beginning, when it crashed back in February, we've just had nothing the whole year. We have been starved completely. It's like being a homeless person, in Dubai. It just makes no fucking sense. You can't be so impoverished when all around you looks great, looks amazing. The environment looks brilliant. And yet crypto's had nothing, not a slice of the pie at all. And I don't necessarily think all crypto should go up either. I think that, we have now reached a kind of intellect in the crypto market where I don't really think that everything is going to go up anymore, because people have lost faith in cryptos. I think that this it is perfectly indicative of how the market is feeling right now. They don't care about any of this shit. Everybody's saying, Hyperliquid, that's going to go up huge. Monero, Litecoin is going to go huge. People on crypto Twitter are absolute cancer. I could play the game where I do, clickbaity, emotionally charged tweets and say, Dow's is going to be 3 billion next week. And, you can get people really riled up. But I don't play in that game, right? However, most people on Twitter listen to people like that, like Crypto Rover and, all these shit posters that talk about shit coins and actually think that they actually have any substance behind what they say. It's just a stupid market, to be honest. And, it shouldn't be the case that all altcoins go up. It's only going to be select altcoins. What basically is hyped at the time, what makes sense at the time, that is what's going to do really well over time. That's what's going to do well in an altcoin season. At the time of the last alt season, this was not an alt season. I don't know what this is. This is just an error in the data. This was just Bitcoin doing badly, and you only had to be on a 5% rise to actually be outperforming Bitcoin, and most altcoins were over 5%. And that's why there was an alt season. But this was the last alt season. And, back at this point, AI was very hyped, and that's why AI coins, AI agents, AI memes did really well. But the question is, what's going to be... But, even though those did well, so also did SPX, did extremely well, and it wasn't anything to do with AI. So it shows that movements are decoupled. Movements can do well. Meme movements that make sense, that get passionate followers, can do well regardless, right? So all we need is an alt season. That's all we like, a proper alt season, which we have not had since December last year. We've had a whole year of famine. Well, not we, because obviously you've got me. And I found some great gems. But most people who follow most YouTubers are pretty much in a perpetual cycle of always being poor, but always believing they're getting great information. You know, I see in the comments of other YouTubers, and they're like, "Oh, great video, one of your best videos," and it's just talking a lot of crap, just a load of nonsense. And they're still all the poorer, the more they've been invested in shit coins. But who cares at the end of the day? They don't really care. Yeah, I don't care about any of these people. I care about you because you follow me. The rest of them can go to fucking hell, as far as I'm concerned. But not all altcoins should go up. What should go up is what sounds like it makes sense at the time. You know, what is trending at the time and what makes sense at the time. What is a crypto? You know, basically what I'm talking about, long and short of it, is Petro Penguins. All right, this and Doge. And the long and short of it, this is what I'm talking about. You know, these make sense. They just make sense. No matter which way you try and spin it, they make sense. You care about it more than you care about Aptos, Sui, Avalanche, anything else. And those are actually probably the best ones you can think of. I'm not even talking about your shit ones like Injective and your DeFi protocols and, you know. So anyway, there we are. Right, let me now take a few questions. I don't know how long I've been talking. And by the by, people, if you could just tap a like on this video, because it will help me and it will help other people find the information that needs to be found, whilst at the same time allowing them to find the likes of Petro Penguins and Doge. So if you can like Spike, and let me have a look and see what you guys are saying in the comments. And that's another thing I noticed, actually, is that, you know, my channel, like everybody's channel, has not had that insane amount of views. Like, I have not had the 2021 amount of views, you know, of 434,000, 100,000, you know. My best views ever, even though at the time I had like 15,000 subscribers when I made these videos, because I've had to have two channels. And my new channel, which is now my main channel, I had 15,000 subscribers when I was getting 400,000 views, 100,000 views. You know, look, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, right? But they ended up being my most popular videos. And even as a much bigger YouTuber now, 10 times the size I was back then, and I can't get a video anywhere close to this because we just have not had that alt season yet. And I am very good at being on top of the most trending cryptocurrencies. So if anybody is going to get 100k views, it would be me. And yet I haven't gotten anywhere near those because there has just not been the alt season. It's been the same for Alex Becker. It's been the same for Elio Trades. The same for No BS. Well, maybe not No BS and House Crypto because they're outperforming their size, to be honest. But a lot of the, you know, older YouTuber channels, they're getting nowhere at this point because there's not been a season to accommodate it. Right? So that's another thing that plays into, you know, there's the liquidity. Yes, you know, it is going down at the moment. Yes, it's going down at the moment. But we've not had any big spikes since 2023. Anyway, let's have a look and see what you guys got to say. Aha, yes. Yes, that is something I noticed and I'm very happy about. Finally, ICP is having its day in the sun. What a beauty. And I actually, it's funny enough, I actually spoke about this in the video I did that I never posted. Right, which is, at that point, ICP was $3. And I said, this has a chance to boom. And now it's 6.38, so... yeah, I think ICP has been slightly decoupled with the rest of the market. Like, the rest of the market seems to have just been booming, and ICP's just been left in the dust. Just keeps on losing value, even though it's actually a very strong layer 1. So, yeah, it's good to see ICP finally having its day. Just the envelope scenarios. Mild dump, 20-30% from 120 to 120k zone. Heavier still within cycle. I think there's too much information. Meow is weak at the moment. It will return. It will return. Oh, Crypto Queen Amy's in the house. Good to see you. I saw that your Twitter was... Let me just have a look. Was deleted. Let me just see if that's still the case. Doesn't even come up, but that's just banal in my opinion. There are way accounts suspended. How ridiculous. Yeah, some real shit accounts on X, and yet they're still allowed to keep on scamming people. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? But you know that's the mark. That's how life is sometimes. You know, it always is that more and more go to the people with the most. It's stupid, isn't it? But that's just how it is. That's life. Holding Pengo. I'm holding Pengo and Dale. Should I hold or sell? Well, if you haven't listened to this video, re-watch it. Jai was great for my Super Gem, still holding for 2026. It was, and that time will come again. Remember that Delge did its unholy rise without an alt season. 87 million market cap without an alt season. Like, think about how it will be when times are great. Maybe Ian Bellino is right and this cycle prediction will end between second and third quarter of 2026. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I mean, at the end of the day, stimulus will need some time to play out. You know, but we'll just wait and see. As far as I'm concerned, there's one round of it, but you never know. Okay, well, there's not much in the way of video. Not much in the way of Questiones, so I'm probably going to make a move now. We need Murad and Suppo sign. Murad and I agree on a lot of things together. We really do. Right, okay. So I'm going to make a move now, people. Thank you all for turning up. And how long have I been live, in fact? Oh, not even an hour. Feels like I've been online for, like, hours, to be honest. Thank you very much, All Will Retire. I appreciate that. If you are official, All Will Retire. Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to make a move, people. I appreciate you all for being here, of course. And, you know, this is crypto. This is crypto. I've been doing this 8 years. I missed the top in 2017. I missed the top in 2021. Finally, I get a top, but I don't sell at it. It's hilarious, isn't it? So anyway, so we'll just have to wait. This is crypto. And I believe crypto has changed since it's had institutional adoption. I don't think it's as weak a market as it used to be. I don't think it crashes as much as it used to for maybe, you know, some of the mainstay coins. But what I believe is we have not seen the liquidity pump play out yet. I think we are in a crisis, but I think we are going to come out of it. I think we are going to have a part 2. But it remains to be seen. Either way, could you be without crypto? I mean, I don't think I could. It's addictive. Till next time, people, I've been the Suppoman. You who are watching right now, you, if you're watching my face live right now, or even on playback, you are awesome. And I'll see you next time. It is lights out, all out.